everyone. So it is academic job application interview season, and I thought I would share with you the 5 mistakes that I have seen job applicants make from my perspective as someone who has been a hiring manager and who has sat on a lot of search committees and has interviewed a lot of candidates. So these 5 pitfalls to avoid will really help you in your job search. So mistake number 1 is not reading the job description. There are minimum requirements in the job description. So for example, if the job says you have to have a doctorate for a position and you do not have a doctorate, you're not really eligible for the job. So even if you apply, you're not going to get the interview. It can also be something as if in the job it lists that you must have an X ability or be able to do something, and you don't do whatever X is, and that is a requirement, you're probably not the best candidate for the job. So I would suggest, if that's the case, don't apply for it. Read the job description and make sure that your cover letter addresses how you are uniquely qualified for that specific job. Which brings me to mistake number 2. And mistake number 2 that applicants make is not paying enough attention to their initial paperwork. And what do I mean by that? The cover letter and the CV that you send in. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard musicians say, well, I'm a great pianist. When they hear me play, they're not going to hear you play, because the first thing that a search committee looks at is your cover letter, your CV, your application, and then they listen to your samples if that's a part of the application. And so if your paperwork is not cohesive, if it does not address the job description I just talked about, if it is generic and it's clear that you're just sending the same cover letter to every single job you're applying for, and please proofread it, because how many cover letters have I seen that mention a different job than the one that I'm reading their cover letter about? You are not going to get passed on to that next level, because schools want to know that applicants can get their paperwork together, and formatting does matter. Even if you've done amazing things, but your CV looks like it was put together at 3 o'clock in the morning in the dark using 3 different fonts, and is just, the spacing is all over the place, that does not speak highly of you. And if your cover letter does not address the job and may actually be addressing some other job, that does not speak highly of you. So I cannot tell you how important it is to have your paperwork in order. This brings us to mistake number 3, not knowing about the institution. Make sure in your cover letter you show knowledge about the job, about your ability and your qualifications for that specific job, and relate yourself somehow to why you'll be the best person to work at that institution. When you are, if you are lucky to be selected for a first round of phone or Zoom interview, make sure you do your research and you find out things about the institution, the college, the department, so that way you are not sitting at the interview pitching ideas about some amazing project or program or class that is already in existence at that school. Or vice versa, you are saying, well, I really don't want to teach that class, or I don't know anything about that class, when that class is clearly a part of the job advertising as a part of the position you're applying for, right? You want to make sure you are aware of what is happening where you're applying. Be aware of what the people on your search committee do, what their fields are. Make sure you know what offerings the unit has. Make sure you know who is the hiring manager, who is the supervisor, is it a chair, is it a director, is it a dean? So that way you know exactly the organizational chart of the university, who you're speaking to, and what their role is at the institution and in the search process. I promise you that will save you a whole lot of heartache later on. The number 4 mistakes I have seen candidates make is not preparing. Now, we're all musicians, so practice. Not just practice whatever it is you're going to perform for if you are selected for a campus interview. Practice your teaching presentation. If you have to do a presentation, practice, time it. Make sure you give yourself ample time for everything. Setup, questions, discussion, so you don't feel rushed and pushed, just like you would for a conference presentation. Make sure that you practice interviewing, even for the phone interview. You do not want to go on for half an hour answering one question, right? Because that's too much. But you also don't want to give a one-word answer because that's too little. So there is a happy medium, and you can practice these questions and answers. How? Because there's certain questions that a lot of interviews use. For example, tell me a little bit about yourself. Why do you want this position? Why are you interested in this particular job at this particular time? What makes you most qualified? All of these questions are ones that you can research, investigate, Google, and figure out a good answer to, so that when the time comes, you sound professional and prepared, and you don't talk too much or too little. It is that simple. The 5th mistake that I have seen everyone make, or not everyone, some people make, is that they believe the interview is just the actual interview, where you're sitting in the room with a committee. Your interview begins from the first time you correspond with the prospective employer, the first time you sent that application. So every correspondence you have, every email you send, every phone call you make, when you get off the plane for an on-campus interview, the faculty member who picks you up from the airport, the administrative assistant who's helping you with the paperwork or who's helping you find the room, the students who you have a meeting with, the student meeting, for example, a lot of times that happens, the students who are in the teaching presentation, all of those individuals are going to remember you for how you interacted with them. So it's very important that you remember that and be polite, courteous, respectful, and appreciative of every single person that you encounter, and be professional in every single correspondence that you have. Because in the end, that is who you are as a candidate. It's not just what you do during the actual interview or during your performance. It's also how you interact with everybody else around you, because everybody wants a collegial, polite person to be in their lives. So I hope that this has been helpful, and there are plenty of other advices I could give, but I think this is general 5 points that I think sometimes people don't think about, because they're so focused on their craft of whatever instrument they play or whatever they do, that they forget that not only are there people on the search committee who are in your field, most of the time, especially if you're applying to a smaller institution, you're going to have people who are not in your field. So if you're a piano player, you're going to have non-pianists on the committee. And you're probably going to have some external committee member who's not even in that department, who's not even a musician. So it's just as important as how you present yourself professionally as a potential employee, as it is how you present yourself in your actual craft as, say, a piano player. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and let me know if you have any other questions about the academic job interview process. Good luck!